That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm starting off in my new John Kent Superboy hoodie. I just got it in the mail today and I am super excited. Take the hood off so you can see my balding ass head. Since I'm an old man, I'm definitely no Superboy, but this bitch is clean. Found it on a cool website that's got a lot of anime and comic book hoodies and stuff like that. So I guess I'm not going to leave a link in the description because it's kind of sketch. Obviously, I paid and I got my thing, but the copyright stuff on that's a little iffy. But hey, if you want a hoodie like this, you can go search John Kent hoodie and it should turn up relatively quickly. I saw a bunch of other cool stuff on there. They had like a Winter Soldier one where the arm was all like metallic and shit. It was pretty neat, not gonna lie. So yeah, this is my John Kent hoodie. And yeah, I is pretty excited about it. I have a feeling it's going to get hot. I'm going to have a hard time doing it, but I'm going to try to leave the hoodie on, all zipped up and shit. We'll see how that goes throughout the rest of the episode. Anyway, tonight on Comic Reviews, we've got a pretty decent-sized week, plus a trade to talk about. So I'll be starting tonight with Black Hammer Justice League number 2, Doctor Strange, number 17, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, number 10, Wonder Woman, number 76, Zorro, Legendary Adventures, book 2, number 4, Event Leviathan, number 3, Silver Surfer Black, number 3, The Flash, number 76, and for Trade Talk, we'll talk about Wonder Woman Earth 1, Volume 1. I was tweeting about this, and anytime I'm tweeting about a book while I'm reading it is a pretty good sign. So, I'm excited to talk about that. Alrighty. Whew! Let me just check. I guess I didn't think to check this. Okay, yeah, everything's good. You should be able to hear me. Hey, Zorro Fan Productions. Good to see you in the comments, as always. Alright, let's go ahead and get started tonight with Black Hammer Justice League number 2. I did decide to put this on my poll because the premise has got me interested enough, and it does help that it's Jeff Lemire writing it. I kind of love how this starts, because I love Batman. Batman is one of my favorite characters in comics. But I also really like when writers make Batman out to be kind of a dick. And so the Black Hammer team and the Trinity plus Cyborg have switched universes. And so Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, along with Cyborg, are stuck in just the town, living on the farm. And Bruce Wayne is going crazy. Bruce Wayne cannot deal with it. He hates it. And he's like spending his nights driving around the like livable property, I guess you'd call it, looking for crime to fight. He's out on patrol, and this has gotten him in trouble with the local sheriff. He's like, listen, this is my problem. Let me worry about the people tipping cows. You don't need to be disturbing the public. And I'm just like, that's fucking adorable. That Batman is just so... God, I love that idea. That's just great stuff. And Batman's kind of under the impression that he's the only one who really cares about getting out of there, and Clark's just given up. And Clark has not. He really misses Lois, which... I guess that's pretty typical Clark writing, and I thought that was pretty good too. Meanwhile, the crew of the Black Hammer book are kind of dealing with Starro, and that's some old bullshit. When they run into the remaining members of the Justice League, who want to know what they did with their friends after they're able to defeat Starro. And they don't really have an answer for him right away. Also, Golden Gale hits on Aquaman, and that was hilarious. Meanwhile, in space, Colonel Weird is running to the Green Lantern Corps and tries to just teleport away and ends up on Bizarro World where he meets Bizarro versions of his friends, and that's very strange. And then John Stewart kind of catches back up with him, and they basically start a team up. They realize that someone's manipulated these events to swap heroes in universes, and it's causing all kinds of problems. Colonel Weird is being written so much like Dr. Manhattan, it's kind of trippy. Where he's talking about, like, oh yes, come John Stewart, and he's like, I didn't tell you my name. You will, this way, hurry. I don't know. I kind of liked it. It's trippy, it's weird. There's a really good scene with Wonder Woman talking with Cyborg. I was initially a little on it because Wonder Woman's like, it drives me crazier. I'm a warrior, Victor. Every day I spend here pretending to be something else is slow death for me. I'm like, that's not really Wonder Woman. And like, I don't know, I'm conflicted, I guess, on Wonder Woman's writing. The idea that she'd go and visit Victor, who kind of, you know, by his look, can't really be out in public, so he's confined to the farm and he can't go walking around too often, otherwise the neighbors would spot him and stuff. That's a problem for him. And Wonder Woman's trying to be supportive, so I really like that. I like the premise of their scene. I don't know if I care for Lemire's voice for Wonder Woman. Like, I like some of the ideas behind this, that she's a teacher for a history teacher in town. That's great. I love that idea for Wonder Woman. But she seems to, like, the way he writes her in the scene, she seems to kind of hate doing that. She's like, I'm not just a teacher or whatever. And she shakes her fist. I'm a warrior. I'm like, I don't know. The Amazons are great warriors, and Wonder Woman's their best. But it's not something that they take like that kind of, I'm only a warrior. Like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. The Amazons could train from sunup to sundown every day for eternity and never need to see battle and be perfectly content. That's at least how I feel the Amazon should be, and I feel that's just kind of become the general premise. The Amazons don't want war. The Amazons don't want to fight. They just know that they need to be able to, and so they take great pride in their ability to. And I think that's a really important distinction. So this idea that she's like yearning for battle, it's a little weird. I guess you could maybe justify it in saying that, well, she knows that there's more beyond this farm. She knows that there's chaos out in the world, and so she can't be content because she's not there to fight that. So I guess if you're being generous, you could use that interpretation. I don't really feel like that's in the book. I feel like it's just kind of more generic. I'm a warrior! And it's shaky. The issue concludes with the fact that one more member of the Justice League was sent to the farm, and just like in the Black Hammer universe, attempting to escape killed him. And it was the Flash. I thought that was a really interesting cliffhanger for the issue, and it just made me want to keep reading. Forget how many issues this is supposed to be. Is it like 6 or something? But yeah, really, really good. The second issue kept me engaged, worked really well with the premise of the first one. Yeah, I quite liked it. Alrighty. What's going on in the comments? Zorro Fan Production says, we need a new Zorro movie. Yes! I agree. Thank you. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and go on to talk about Doctor Strange, number 17. Man, this was a really good conclusion to this whole Herald Supreme arc where, you pitted Doctor Strange against Galactus. So in the last issue, the Marvel Universe threw everything they had at defeating Galactus, who was merged with Dormammu, or who in fact consumed Dormammu. And so Mystic Galactus, as I shall call that new form, was kind of all-powerful. And for the first time in eternity, his hunger was satiated. And it was at that point that Doctor Strange struck, hoping that it would cause Galactus to kind of regurgitate the entirety of existence. But it didn't. It in fact made him implode. And so all of existence was reduced to Doctor Strange and the Void with Eternity. And so Eternity is always like this big, regal figure of just incomprehensible power. And because Doctor Strange is all that is left of Eternity, Eternity is nothing but a reflection of Doctor Strange. And so Eternity asks him, "Do you think yourself a god, Stephen Strange?" And I really love that. That's like the opening of the book. It's a great moment. And so Stephen Strange has to kind of reason everything that happened and remember his conversation with Mephisto and yada, yada, yada. And so he's left with one idea of what to do, and that is, as a surgeon, repair the universe. Do reconstructive surgery on existence itself. And so Stephen Strange, from the Big Bang to the moment before this story kicked off, recreates all of history from the Big Bang on. And he talks about how he has to recreate the monsters too, because he can't risk anything changing. And he has to recreate his own life, his own torment, because he can't risk being a different person than he needs to be right now. And then the only point at which he changes anything is when the alien wizard that kicked all this off comes to him and demands to know how Stephen Strange defeated Galactus in the past, to which he now has a new opportunity to deal with the trouble. And ultimately, he has to kind of calm the guy down using magic, and puts a spell on himself to make it so he cannot lie. And he tells this guy, no one knows how to reliably repel Galactus. Each time the Earth has done so, it's been an unrepeatable phenomenon. There is but one way to evade his attack. One bargain he will honor. My friend Norrin Rad once entered into it. Norrin chose to leave his homeworld forever in exchange for becoming Galactus's intergalactic herald. If you would save your world, you must make the same sacrifice. There is no other alternative. So tell me, are you truly the defender you claim to be? And then it's left with this alien wizard becoming the herald of Galactus. And so it's like such a downer ending. I love downer endings. That's the best. And like it's a double downer, which is just the pathos, man. The broodiness. I love shit like this. Like it's so my trash. Like, not that it's bad. It's really, really well written. I really do like the direction this goes. I like downer endings because in order to make the triumphs feel as big as they need to be, you need stories like this. You need the time where it doesn't work out, where things do go wrong, where things are not a complete victory. And this is just a really great example of that. So I really, really appreciate that. So we have the downer ending in that not everyone's saved. Galactus isn't like kicked to the curb like you'd like him to be. Galactus continues as a threat. Meanwhile, Strange now has to kind of have his personal conclusion to the story. And so Eternity and the Living Tribunal, who oversaw the recreation of existence, asks Stephen Strange what he will do. And he says that there's one thing he realized during all of this, and that's who his one true love was. And so he's going to go back to her, his ex-wife. But when he attempts to, he runs into Mephisto, who he made a bargain with, who he made a deal with. And now Mephisto wants to collect. And the deal, or the bargain, the collection, is that Stephen has to make his wife forget who he ever was, so that he can never be with her again. And so we just get, broody cover. Broody ending. Broody endings are the best. I am Stephen Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. The path I walk alone. And that's the end of the issue. Next, the beginning of the end, Doctor Strange, number 18, on sale August 21st, 2019. Yeah, I really like this. This is exactly the kind of like dour shit that I get really into for whatever bleak ass reason, because I'm just a shitty person, I guess. I don't know. Oh, what's going on here? Ian's live comic reviews. Thanks, Manos. I shall retweet on camera. I know that's the most exciting part for everybody. All right, let's go ahead and go on and talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 10. So I really did like this story. Oh, sorry, let me just adjust my camera. I realize I'm really out of frame. I really do like this story. I thought it was a pretty good arc overall. I don't think it's like the best Spider-Man story. What I find is Tom Taylor has a really, really good voice for Spidey. I don't know if he's really great at plotting as far as this goes, or as far as what he wants to do. Because while I like the ending of this, anticlimactic probably isn't the right word, but what do I want to say? Not fully satisfying. You know, I guess that's what it is. Like, I think the story's pretty good. I think the ending's shaky. Uzab says, no, he's not. I'm assuming you're talking about Tom Taylor as a writer, or what? Elaborate on that. Because I don't know, I quite like Tom Taylor. What I've read of him, I think he's pretty good. So anyway, last issue left off with Spidey going to Tony Stark to talk to him, and it's like, oh, so you need Iron Man's help. He's like, actually, no. I need Tony Stark's help. And he's like, oh, so you want money? He's like, no, I don't want a handout. I need something kind of specific and kind of different. And he's like, okay, what do you need? And then we get like cut, and Spidey goes back to his apartment, and he and the Rumor, that's it. I gotta keep that in mind. He and the Rumor kind of go back to the building of the bad guy who lives off the awful pasts and bad feelings of others, and they have to go kind of like take him out and beat him up and save Prowler. It's fine. I do like this moment where, you know, the villain tries to feed off of Peter Parker's pain, and we get like this, I'd say it's a pretty good image of like all the tragedy that Peter Parker's experienced. We got Uncle Ben, we got the Venom symbiote, Mary Jane, the Lizard, Parenstein. That's pretty good. You got the Spider-Man No More, Gwen Stacy death. I think that's a pretty good example of a bunch of the stuff that Peter Parker's gone through and how a lot of it's really bad. And then Peter does get like a really good moment as a character. So it's, again, I don't think Tom Taylor doesn't get him as a character or anything. You're not exactly the first evil thing to prey on my guilt. I'm kind of used to it. And I've let some people down, sure, but I'm not my loss. I'm not driven by my failures. What drives me is making sure things like you don't win. The greedy, the selfish, anyone who feeds off human misery. You're all weak, and I believe you will all lose one day. Helmuth, you made a very big mistake, buddy. And cracks him through a wall and says, you underestimated the power of cheerful optimism. I like that. It's a good moment. It's a good Peter Parker thing. Conceivably, if that's where the story ended, I think it's maybe a little abrupt, but it'd be fine. What I find odd is where it actively ends at. So, Peter was saying before he went to go fight the villain that backup will be there at 9 a.m. And so they just need to wait for backup, and they can't because of reasons. But then after he's defeated Helmuth, backup arrives in the form of Tony Stark in the Iron Man suit. But actually, he's not the backup. And I'm pretty sure he's just wearing the suit for effect. The backup is behind him. Stark, lawyers, and accountants. They're going to get back every crooked cent you've stolen to ensure it goes to the right people. So, I guess I should have explained the premise of the story. The villain was essentially running a GoFundMe for sick people, but just stealing all the money in order to feed off the suffering that created. Again, I think that's actually a reasonably clever idea for a villain plot in the new modern age where, if you're sick and dying, you have to rely on your popularity to be healthy. I think there's genuine good there. I feel Taylor may have written himself into a corner about how to solve that. Because that's a problem you can't really punch away, right? That's problem. You can't just punch the bad guy and then all those sick people get all the money they've been waiting on. No, the bad guys still might be going to prison, but the people still didn't get what they needed. So how do you solve it? And the solve here is that Tony Stark buys the company, and his lawyers and accountants are going to disseminate the money the way it's supposed to be. And I'm like, it does feel a little like the problems that people say exist in the MCU Spider-Man franchise, I guess. I don't think it's that. I really like the MCU Spider-Man, but this feels like the kind of ending that a lot of people are kind of accusing that series of films for being of, it's just Tony Stark 2.0 or whatever. I'm like, I disagree. Here it's like, okay, Tony, just solve all my problems for me. It's like, it's a MacGuffin, and I do think Tom Taylor writes Tony Stark pretty well. He's got a good voice for him. But that's just, I don't know, there's something very unsatisfying about that ending because it comes from such a, this is a stupid term since I'm talking about a guy with spider powers and another dude in a suit of armor that lets him fly, but it does seem very unrealistic, I don't know. So the ending, I think, is a little shaky. But overall, I like the story. I like the character stuff. Again, that's Peter Parker's speech is pretty good. Really enjoyable story arc. I just thought the ending was a little down. Ultimately, Tony and Peter set up Hobby, who is Prowler, to be the one who's going to run the company on behalf of Tony. So he's going to run this GoFundMe-esque website and make sure that people get the funds they need and all that stuff. I like that. I think that's a good way to kind of wrap it all together and stuff. So I was pretty impressed by that. Overall, again, I think my favorite issues of this series have just been the one and dones. The more plot heavy stuff I've been like, yeah, okay, it's fine. But the one and done stuff has been a lot better. Here's the cover for next month. I'm excited for that. We'll see what we get then. That's all I got. Let's go ahead and move on to Wonder Woman number 76. Oh, God, this was good. Okay, so it took 76 issues, and finally Greg Rucka's run is settled. Jesus. That's a slow burn. So, back at the beginning of DC Rebirth, Greg Rucka came on, and he made some changes to the continuity that were just, I don't know. Like, I really like some of the stuff that he kind of was like, no, you know what, no, fuck the New 52, we're not going to do it. You know, she is the daughter of Clay. The Amazons in New 52, that was just the trickery of the gods to hide Themyscira. You could never go back to Themyscira. And to be fair, this could still stand with that. This, like, because what happened in that run is they go to Themyscira and it was like a different Themyscira than they were expecting, and it turned out that every time Wonder Woman thought she was going home, it was just a slightly different lie, a fake Themyscira to keep her tricked. So she'd never been home since the moment she left with Steve. Okay, whatever. It's weird. So here she returns, and it's this big cathartic moment. And technically, if you want to be a dour person about it, yeah, maybe it's just another one of those fake Themysciras. I hope not. That's a premise I don't love. Like, I understand the appeal of it, especially the way that Rucka set up Veronica Cale as a villain. That Wonder Woman left her mother and her family and her home and can never go back. And she gets one chance to see them again, and Veronica Cale's right by her side, and her daughter has to be given over to Themyscira because it's the only place where she can be whole. And so they both have to leave after that and are left in this place of, like, no one can ever go back. So Wonder Woman's left the daughter out in the world, not able to return home and see her mother, while Veronica Cale has left the mother out in the world, not being able to return to this foreign place to see her daughter. And it does create a really good dynamic between Veronica Cale and Wonder Woman. I think that is a strong premise for a villain, and for a tragic villain. I do see what Rucka was going for. At the same time, it comes at such a cost to Wonder Woman. You know, I love Kyle Rayner. Kyle Rayner is by far my favorite human Green Lantern. As far as Green Lanterns with a really deep character, yeah, he's my favorite Green Lantern. But also, I really love the lore of Green Lantern, the world building, the whole core, all the weird aliens, all the crazy threats like the Spider Guild and shit. That's all really fun. And so as much as I love Kyle Rayner, I feel like that era of, okay, let's just drop the mythology and all the cool stuff, and he's just generic space superhero now. And it's like, oh, okay. But Kyle Rayner instantly gets better once you put him in the core. He's such a unique figure once he's around the other Green Lanterns. And I really feel like that's what Rucka was setting up. Like, yeah, Wonder Woman's a great character, and it gives her a really, really good villain to play off of now. But is it worth losing everything you get by having Themyscira there? You know, like, that's the question. Is it worth the mythology just for the character dynamic? And my answer is really no. And so I think G. Willow Wilson and I are kind of in the same boat. Where it's like, no, it's really not worth it, and let's make it work. So, in this issue, Wonder Woman is home, and she immediately knows that she has to leave and bring Veronica Cale. Oh, hey, I opened right to the page I needed to be. And bring Veronica Cale there so she can have her daughter, and they can go back to the world together. And it's a really, really touching moment when Wonder Woman shows up in her house to tell her the news, and oh god, I love this so much. The second Veronica knows that she's going to get her daughter back, she just breaks down and just immediately is like, oh, I need to get this, I need to get this. I need those stupid vampire novels that I thought were so idiotic at the time. Her clothes, has she grown? She's just such a mother in that moment. I thought that was a really, really good moment, and I really, really liked it. So, like, you're getting kind of the conclusion to the mother without the child, character that Greg Rucka set up. And then what I really like is Wilson kind of establishes pretty directly that just because Wonder Woman's delivering on a promise doesn't mean that side of their relationship is fixed. Wonder Woman has a tendency to make villains into friends, but she's not all forgiving. She's not, I don't know, that's not true. She's not naive. She's not immediate in those steps that she'll take with someone. She's willing to hear someone out, and she's willing to always grant someone their personhood, but that doesn't mean that she's going to forget the things they've done. And this version of Veronica Cale has done a lot of damage to Wonder Woman's life. And so, really, it's just, it is all in one panel. And I was very, very impressed with it. Where Wonder Woman consoles Veronica Cale, and Veronica says, "You're still my enemy when all this is over." And Wonder Woman says, "You're still my enemy now." So there's like very much this notion that Wilson's going to keep this bitter divide between them, and that Veronica Cale's not really going to change her views on Wonder Woman for this, at least not much. And neither is Wonder Woman for Veronica Cale. They're still enemies, but that is how forgiving, how human, how nurturing Diana is as a character. Is you could kill her family, and if you did it all for your lost daughter, she'd still return your child to you. Doesn't mean she's going to give up on, completely forget the other stuff that you did, though. So I was really, really impressed with that. So anyways, the reuniting is brief. but pretty sweet. And Wonder Woman and Hippolyta have a little reuniting of their own. Thinking about all the time they now have to spend together and catch up on things. Meanwhile, it literally says meanwhile. This does have the whole Year of the Villain thing on it, and in the last issue, the cheetah was given a mystical sword by Lex Luthor that could kill a god. And so Cheetah goes to Diana's home looking for an Olympian to take her to Themyscira. And she finds Aphrodite, who is hesitant in how she talks to Cheetah. What are you staring at? What are you staring at, goddess of love? Am I as beautiful as you are? You are different. Say I am beautiful. Say I am worthy. All are worthy. Too slow. God killer. God killer. So yeah, Cheetah's just I love the next Love is Dead. I love the premise. That's the Olympian gods in Wonder Woman's books are never safe. They drop like fucking flies in every goddamn story arc. It's amazing. Yeah, so I guess Cheetah's the villain of the next arc, which, again, after Rucka, I'm really curious to see what will be done with her. She hasn't really been written in a big way since Rucka's run, at least not that I've read her anywhere. And so this will be interesting to see what direction is taken with her. Overall, really, really good conclusion to this arc. Like I said last time, I actually wasn't feeling it 100%. It had its moments, but I thought the conclusion was really good. It kind of puts a nice bow on the previous, writers' runs, and I guess maybe this next arc with Cheetah as the villain. Excuse me. This next arc with Cheetah as a villain will probably give us a what do I want to say? An insight, or maybe like a final conclusion on the previous runs from Rucka and I can never remember his name. Starman writer that apparently his run on Starman is worth bad runs on everything else. We seem to be closing the book on those, and hopefully that'll mean Wilson will kind of just do her own thing going forward, now that she's got all her toys where they need to be, so looking forward to read more of the run. And again, like, I was a little iffy on some of Wilson's stuff, and I do think that she's doing good work. It's not been I don't think she's great month to month. I think her arcs are strong. I just don't think her individual issues play as well as her overall arcs do, because I really end up loving the first issue and last issue of her arcs. In the middle, I'm like, okay. And then it's just when there's 3 months in between, you're like, okay, for quite a while. But overall, I do think her run has been pretty good. All right. I'm getting hot. I'm going to take off the Superboy hoodie. I can't do it. Why did I buy a hoodie in summer? Why was I such a fool? Oh, right. Uno momento, por favor. Nice white interior with the black interior on the hood. Very stretchy material. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Zorro Legendary Adventures Book 2. Whew, they crammed a lot into this one. First story is called The Wind of Revolt. the soldiers are collecting new tax, and Zorro needs to, kind of figure out how to stop that. Pretty typical stuff. I really, really did like the art in this one. This had really nice looking pencil and ink work. The coloring does still look a little old school, but a lot better than some of the other quality in the book here. Like, I like this panel of Zorro taking the pistol. That's good. A lot of this stuff was just really good. Nice dynamic action, cool stuff. Even like Garcia, where he's got like a tomato thrown in his face kind of thing. I thought that was pretty cool. And just really good art in this one. So yeah, anyway, he distracts the military and throws the captain on a cactus, and yeah, it's really not even a story. That's just Zorro's Sunday. That's just Zorro's Tuesday. He just does that every day. Next issue is called Zorro Masquerade Justice. The tax collector is stealing people's furniture and planning to sell it, but he'll be at a masked ball, so Diego decides to go dressed as Zorro, which is actually pretty adorable. And then he kind of like just attacks the guy when he's in the middle of trying to sell his stolen goods, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I thought this was odd. So like right here, right down here, there we go. This is the last panel of that story I was just talking about. We immediately go to 2 panels down here, no break in action or anything. It just looks like, okay, yeah, Zorro's running away from him now or something. No, it's the start of the next story. Like, these panels down here are carryovers into this story over here. And in that one, Zorro's been shot in the shoulder, and so Garcia's got a plan where he's going to smack people on the shoulder to try to figure out who Zorro is. The art in here is not great. So he, when it comes to Don Diego kind of just preempts him and slaps him across the room, embarrassing the shit out of Garcia, so he just leaves. Not a great premise. I kind of like the idea. It's got like that cool like subterfuge kind of feel for a lot of the superhero stuff. It's like, oh no, they're about to be unmasked. But just the premise is great. The conclusion is lacking at best. And the art's not very good anyway. Next story is called Zorro, the Dog Without a Master, in which Garcia finds a stray dog. Recognizing who it belongs to, he tries to take it back to the owner and finds that there's a new guy living at the house who's apparently, the dog doesn't like him and keeps running away, and so he's like, alright, well, here's your dog back. And he tells Diego about it, and Diego finds it weird, so they go to check it out, and he starts to spy on them and figures out that they're bandits living in the house and that they've kidnapped the family, and they're gonna try to sell them into slavery or kill them on a ship or some kind of weird premise. And so Zorro kind of reveals the evil plan and saves the day. Again, not a very clever or thrilling story. Sometimes a lot of these shorter Zorro stories are just like, yep, okay, cleverness, yep, okay. And those, I don't know, those tend not to be very fun. Like, I liked the last one a little bit more because, like, oh, Diego goes to a masked ball as Zorro. That's fun. There's another one kind of like this where, like, Diego fought a bull, and that's fun. But when it's just this, it's like, really, there's nothing to it. It's just a little way too typical. And then, yeah, so that was it for that one. We're apparently doing yet another Supernatural Zorro series after Sacrilege wraps up. That one will be called Zorro, Rise of the Old Gods #1. If we're doing Zorro and Lovecraft, I am, like, here for it, man. Like, that sounds like some fucking rad shit. I don't know. We'll see. But you say the old gods. I guess you could maybe mean, like, I guess it's old ones most of the time. But I don't know. Carl Maxey says, Ian, do you think Zorro can be modernized? Oh, totally. I'm actually, as much as I love Diego de la Vega as a character, I do think that Zorro makes much more sense as a legacy character than something like Batman. Which sounds kind of crazy, but, like, Zorro, like, intentionally, Diego designs the outfit to be something anyone can wear. It's not like some kind of special armor. It's not the greatest sword in all the land. It's a cheap peasant cloak and a hat that's just readily available all across California. And it's all very, basic clothing. And so it's meant to be like anyone can be Zorro, and that's the point. Which, of course, very Nolan Batman, but still. So, like, that's really strongly built into the character's premise. And then you just have, what is Zorro fighting for? He's a champion of the oppressed. Zorro is the original social justice warrior. So, of course, he should be a legacy character. Like, you don't need to... And this is probably the most important part. You don't need Zorro to be a family legacy. And in fact, I feel it's weaker if it is. I'll take a family legacy Zorro, like we got in the really, really bad Zorro Generation Z cartoon. Like, I'll take it if you can make it work, but you don't need it, and it's stronger if it's not. If Zorro is just a thing that is like I like the idea of Zorro, the original Zorro, Don Diego de la Vega, dies an old man. Diego de la Vega is never discovered to be Zorro. It's never known. And he just exists as a legend of the West as California modernizes and Mexico splits off and all that stuff. And he's just like this Hispanic legend. And so you just have examples. Whenever there's oppression of these Zorros throughout history popping up. And I think that's such a cool-ass premise that could really, really work. Especially given just all the shit the Hispanic community in this region of the world has been through with everything from the United States and how it treats its Hispanic population throughout history until today, and just all the corruption and government evil that has existed in countries like Mexico, Guatemala, stuff like that. I think Zorro could be a really, really strong premise for a legacy character that's just taken up as legend. I think it could be great. Maybe one day. There's a really... It's not 100%, but there is like a proof of concept trailer called Zorro Reborn. And it was like a futuristic dystopian Zorro that looked really, really cool in some ways. My only problem with it is they gave him a katana. And Zorro does not need a fucking katana. Zorro stays strapped with the rapier. Just saying. Alright. What else going on in the comments? Zorro Fan Perception says, this story reminds me of the 1957 version of Zorro. Yeah, the comics that this is reprinting were initially published only in France in Le Journal de Mickey, the Journal of Mickey. So I'm sorry for my French accent. I'm sorry, but it's you only get so many options to do it. Outrageous French accent. So you got to take them. So yeah, they're initially published in France in this, Mickey Mouse journal thing, and they were only ever in French, and so this is the first time they've ever been translated to English. So yeah, it's all based around the Disney show though from '57, which is kind of crazy to think about how long that show stuck around for, because these comics, March 1985, August through November 1966, and January of 1978 is when those stories are from. So yeah, Zorro's and the Guy Williams Zorro shows in '57. We got comics going all the way up till '85, and this series is still going. I'm pretty sure. Isn't that crazy? Like they've still got more stuff to pull from for French Zorro comics that came out in like well after that show. Like 30 years later, they're still making comics around that. That's nuts. Anyway, let's go ahead and go on. We'll talk about Event Leviathan number 3. It's not great. It's not like awful. I always feel bad. Like I'm like, oh, this isn't good, is the first thing I have to say about it. But it's also not. It's not like terrible. It's just not very good. I'll start with what I liked. So everyone's chasing Jason Todd because they think he's got to be Leviathan, and even the cover says, "Who is under the red hood?" Get it? Because Leviathan's wearing a red hood and a mask. So I'll start with the stuff that I liked. Bendis is from that Marvel school of thought where you do the catch-up pages, and he is integrating them, or at least giving the layout artist a good thing to integrate with. I really love how this catch-up page read. I thought that was really, really clever. Everything that you need is there, but it all looks so natural. It's just stuff opened up on a desktop, and it feels like something you could actually read the in universe. And I think that's pretty cool. So I was pretty happy with that. That's just neat on like a layout side of things. The action is okay. Most of this issue is just the characters sitting around talking about everything that already happened, and that's not great writing. But I think the thing I like the most is kind of here at the halfway point where Jason Todd has kind of like escaped everyone that's chasing him, except for Lois Lane, and she's the only one who's of course not trying to hit him. She's just trying to ask questions in an interview, and she can't be intimidated by Jason either, which I thought was pretty cool. And so she kind of, through her inquisitive reporting, gets Jason to start talking about what he thinks is going on with this Leviathan thing, and he's actually kind of impressed by it and all that stuff. So it's like, it's clear that Jason's not Leviathan, but he's being set up as the patsy, the scapegoat, and that's why he's running. And like, okay, I liked it. I thought that side of things was really cool. But as far as the rest of the issue, it's seriously just so much stuff of characters sitting there talking about everything that's going on, and I'm just not super impressed by it. Apparently Amanda Waller left a listening device in the Fortress of Solitude, and Damian was just able to find it real quick, even though Superman's internal AI wasn't. And I'm like, alright, I guess. It's weird. So yeah, Amanda Waller was listening in, and she's trying to continue her escape since she knows Leviathan's after her. But then he kind of just walks out of a portal and is, talking shit to her face. I'm just looking like, okay, yeah, this isn't this isn't good. And she says, so is this my kidnapping detail? Or firing squad? Your call. Uh-huh. I'll then say goodbye to the Janus Initiative. I'm like, alright. I like the dialogue there. That's good dialogue. It's just... I don't know. I'm not in love with this. This is just a lot of people talking, not a lot happening, unfortunately. Then the issue ends with Superman saying, excuse me, Miss Waller, are these men bothering you? So, next, Batman versus Superman versus Leviathan. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Whatever. I'll keep reading because this is more in tune with the stuff I'm really enjoying in Action Comics. But I think this is kind of the middle ground where I'm like, yeah, okay. Alright, whatever. I don't know if this is worth $4. That's kind of becoming my thing. I really don't know if this book is worth $4. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Silver Surfer Black, number 3. You know, again, when I reviewed issue 1, I talked about how Tradmore and his art style is just very, very visually unique, and I do think it's very cool, but I don't know if I really loved it in story. And I don't know if I'm enjoying it more if I'm just getting accustomed to it, for whatever that's worth. Because it is certainly the most visually striking and unique thing about the series thus far. Norrin Rad wakes up next to his wife, and it's just very typical, you know, kind of schmutzy, beautiful stuff. And, you know, he touches her belly, and she says, you really think we should bring a child into a world like this? And then it's like, and that was the moment before he came, the destroyer of worlds. And you're like, okay, Galactus, but no, it's the Surfer. I do think that this is really, really good imagery. I really liked that. That is a very strong double-page spread. Again, it's definitely Tradmore kind of taking his style, which I guess... I don't really know how to describe it. He likes squiggliness. He enjoys squigglies. And making that work into a city and kind of just playing with the anatomy again of the Surfer. The hand wrapped around the board looks really good. So I was really impressed with this image. And again, I'm not sure if I think it's getting better or if I'm just getting more accustomed to it. So anyway, and I thought this was pretty good narration on Donny Cates' part. And we screamed at our extinction. When I sleep, the nightmare is the same. I am the destroyer. I am death. I am Norrin. Awake. And then he's there back in, the present with Ego, the living planet, at the early stages of the universe, as Ego is beginning to live. That's kind of where we're at. I gotta say, that's it's definitely not an economic use of your page count in an issue to spend that. I mean, that's probably the first third of the book, all on like a dream sequence. But it does a really good job of doing, character focus and kind of grounding stuff there. So I was pretty impressed with that. Norrin and Ego kind of talk about what the threat from Null is, the symbiote god, and what they need to do about it and how they're going to work together. But before they can do that, Norrin has to kind of take care of Ego because he has been impacted by a meteor of some type, and it is attached to his core and killing him. And so Norrin turns the board into a drill and enters Ego's mass, drilling down. And again, I was pretty impressed by this. The art's working a little bit better for me, more and more as I read it. As Norrin enters the center of Ego and finds something at the core in hell, and is shocked to realize what it is, for it is the worst thing it could possibly be. The incubation pod of Galactus. And I'm like, whoa, that is intense. The lies Lifebringer 1, the cosmic incubator of Galactus. That is, whoosh, that's heavy stuff. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good issue. It's setting up like a lot of big threats that like kind of Norrin's at a very low power level right now, is because of how long he spent in a black hole, and so he kind of needs to just chill for a few and kind of regain his strength, and he can't do that because he just keeps running into major threat after major threat after major threat. And I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, enjoying it a lot more as it goes on. I wasn't sure about this series, but I think these guys are starting to get me really hooked. So we shall see as we continue here. All right, final single issue of the week is The Flash, number 76. The frozen fury of Captain Cold does not exist in this issue. So I talked about last time whether or not I was going to keep reading this book, because I really did like year one, but I wasn't really sure, because Williamson just, like, he'll have me and then he'll lose me. He'll have me and then he'll lose me with The Flash. He lost me. It's a good premise, it's a fine story, it's playing on Flash stuff that I know, but it's Barry instead of Wally, and so that's got some weight to it that I don't love, and it's losing me. I can't get really invested in this book. And it sucks because he's doing cool stuff, but I just don't care enough. I don't think Williamson's a bad writer. I don't think that Barry Allen's an awful character. I think he's a more boring character than Wally West. But I can't maintain interest in this series. I really have been trying. I keep trying to give it a fair shake, but I don't know. And like this one of those instances where I don't really have anything to say about it. Like I could summarize it. I don't really feel the need to. There's ideas I like in it, kinda, sorta. Where Barry takes everyone to a new base he had made called a speed lab. It's like, you build a bat cave. It's not a bat cave, it's a speed lab. I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. They can have their own headquarters. And I think it's fun. It's a fun idea to locate their headquarters inside the Flash Museum, behind a painting you can only get through by vibrating. That's cool, that's fun. But I'm just not into it. I'm just, sometimes you just don't feel it, and I'm just not feeling it, That's really all I got. Sorry for the very short review of Flash number 76, but I think I'm going to drop the book again. I'll be back in like 6 months when they come up with another premise that I can, find myself into. Oh, I've got a trade to talk about still, but I am thirsty. There's only one person watching. Thank you to who's ever stuck through. I'm going to briefly go downstairs and get something to drink, and then we will continue the episode with trade talk. So, intermission. Can I find intermission music before I go? That'd be fun. Intermission music? I know. People must just love that I do shit like that. Like, there are professional streamers on Twitch and shit that will hold their bladder for like 8 straight hours just to make sure that they never leave the stream. And here I can't even go an hour without going to get some drink. Professional YouTuber right here. The most professional YouTuber, as you've come to expect, I'm sure. Alright. Well, I guess I'm disappointed that only one person stuck around through the stream. Because I am actually really excited to talk about Wonder Woman Earth 1. I kind of want to finish my drink, though. Because I'd do some Q&A while I finish the drink. But guess I'm just going to sit here live, finish this drink. If you haven't already, and you're watching this after the fact, feel free to skip down to the description and jump ahead so you can not have to sit here and just watch me drink something. I mean, can I put on something else while I drink this, since I don't have any Q&A to do? I don't really know. Ooh, Death Battle uploaded Ghost Rider vs. Lobo, the most 90s of things. I guess I could go to Alfie's channel and I could play the trailer to the Saiyan Saga thing that I'm helping him on. Let's do that thing over here.
People of Earth, rejoice! We are the Saiyans.
The League is not going to be enough. Alfred, activate protocol. Zorro.
How the hell is he still standing?
You should be more thankful, Martian. If you just sit down and let me kill you, things will go a lot smoother.
Look around you. Is this justice?
I had that beaten out of me.
Beware my power. Green Lantern's light!
I'll die before I let you murder an entire world full of people!
Then you die a proud Saiyan warrior. See what good it does you. Galakan!
Cannon!
I muted my mic there for a minute. Alright. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you guys to see that. I've been helping Alfie work on that quite a bit. And I'm really hyped for you guys to check it out. Hope you enjoy. Alright. With that, let's go ahead and start up Trade Talk. I made you wait long enough. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. This week we'll be discussing Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 2, written by Grant Morrison with art by Yanick Paquette. This was the long-awaited, for me at least, follow-up to Wonder Woman Earth 1. I'm like 90% sure I did a Trade Talk on that, so feel free to search that out. If I remember, I'll put a link in the description. But really, Trade Talk! Wonder Woman, Earth 1, should pop up, if it exists. Pretty sure it exists. If not, I know I did a Geeky Gentleman, where we talked about all the Earth 1 books that were out at the time. You can go watch it in there, because that had been the most recent. Anyway, so I was really looking forward to this when it was announced. I was among the few people who really enjoyed Wonder Woman Earth 1, Volume 1. I thought it was really, really smart, and from a lot of the reviews I saw of it, a lot of people just straight didn't get it. And I know that's like... I feel so weird about that as my summation of people. Because that's often used so much as like a way to look down on someone. It's like, oh no, it's just above you. You just don't get it. It's very pretentious. I don't mean that it was too smart for you, and so you just didn't get it because you're an idiot. I mean, literally, people did not understand the things being communicated in the book based on what they were saying. I sought out a lot of reviews in that. I was particularly interested in reviews by women to try to figure out what they thought of the book. And a lot of women just, again, straight didn't get it. I was pretty disappointed by that, because I thought the first volume was really interesting, was making a lot of really interesting points and doing stuff with Wonder Woman that, like, a lot of people have been afraid to do since Marston died. And so I was really curious to see what Grant Morrison would do to follow that up, and so that's where we get Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 2. And I gotta say, I think that the negative reaction to the first book can be felt here, because while this is most definitely in line with what Morrison was doing in the first volume, and it's definitely continuing that character, that story, it's much more kind of directly a superhero story. It's a lot more... It fits in more with your paint-by-numbers kind of superhero fare, I'll say. It definitely follows a more standard superhero plot beat. It has more standardized superhero villains. Everything going on here is just... I feel it's more comfortable for people that are fans of superhero comics. I feel that people that read the first one and were like, oh, I didn't like this. This didn't have much of a climactic ending. It kind of just ends and stuff. And the politics and things are really confusing. The way women are drawn here is just way too sexualized. I feel like a lot of that negative feedback to the first volume is reflected here, and it's trying to say, okay, here's what you thought you were reading, and here's what you weren't getting, and here's what it's supposed to be. So I feel like this is more direct. This one's more willing to like kind of lead people into the premise of a lot more than the first volume was. The first volume was like kind of, all right, just jump in, you're gonna get this, and a lot of people didn't. And this one's like, all right, fine, come on, we'll follow the leader, we'll hold hands and get through this. And I'll be honest, when I read Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 1 for the first time, I was a little, there were things I really loved about it right out the get-go, but then there were other things where I was like, what? I don't get this, and I read through it a couple times before a lot of that started to make sense to me. I don't feel the need to do that with this one. I feel like a lot of what Morrison is trying to say is pretty much just continued on from the first volume, but in this one, it's a lot more direct. It's trying to make sure it's not misunderstood, which I thought was really cool. Also, Yanick Paquette does some absolutely incredible artwork in this volume. I was showing pages of this to Haley, my wife, who's a huge Wonder Woman fan, and she's like, so it's Wonder Woman Barbie, the comic? I'm like, it kind of is, because she's got so many outfits and they're all so cool. It's super fun to see her. So you got Wonder Woman in a burqa, and then you have Wonder Woman teaching a college course, and it's all over the issue like that. There's all kinds of cool moments where Wonder Woman's wearing all these different outfits that are just so like, yeah, that's what Wonder Woman would look like if she was doing that thing. That's what Wonder Woman would look like if she was doing that thing. And I thought that was pretty freaking awesome. So I just want to flip through here and show you all the different Wonder Woman outfits, because it was super cool. Here's Wonder Woman in her baseball uniform. That's awesome. I love this page. That is great. Oh god, the way Paquette has kept this over, where he's using all the stars and the lasso as panel layouts and accents, is just really, really cool. A whole page of them, really. There's Wonder Woman in a swimsuit. There's Wonder Woman. I love the ball gown. That's great. Just a lot of really cool things. Look at that. Oh, it's so neat. It's all so neat. So yeah, that stuff's actually pretty cool. Let me find the Wonder Woman in the burqa, because it does happen in story, and it's actually pretty awesome. I want to talk about that a little bit. I'll talk about the premise on Wonder Woman in a burqa real quick, and then I'll start getting into some of the story. So here it is, Wonder Woman wearing a burqa. I think that's really, really a cool design. I love the way that it's like it's adapting her costume for a completely different culture than she is used to appearing in. I thought that was pretty neat. Particularly like the stars on the sleeves there. I thought that was great. So Morrison had the premise that there's going to be a scene where Wonder Woman does a mission in the Middle East, and to be respectful, she wears a burqa on said mission. And so let me just read the notes. Wonder burqa. Grant had this bold and thought-provoking idea of having our Diana dress in a burqa for her Middle Eastern adventure, thus embracing open-mindedly diversity and other cultures. I wasn't convinced with my early burqa ideas and felt this potentially slippery design needed some respectful, legit cultural grounding. My Muslim friend, ex-studio mate, and wonderful artist Sanya Anwar came to my rescue with these gorgeous designs. We ended up with a wonder niqab, Niquab instead. Thanks, Sanya. See, I guess I just don't know the difference. There's my cultural misunderstandings. So it's called a niqab. Niqab? So yeah, I think that's a really cool example of just stuff going on behind the scenes that really shows a lot of respect and thought put into things. So, you know, they brought in a Muslim female artist, to help design these, what was it, female artist? I guess I misread that. I can't tell just based on the name. Yeah, they brought in a Muslim artist to help design that outfit, and I thought that was really cool. And of course, the burqa being a very controversial outfit because it's like, oh, it hides the face of women, and it's so sexist, and like that's your very, you know, clutching your pearls argument that you'll hear from a lot of people. So the notion of putting Wonder Woman in a burqa is like kind of like a controversial statement, and that's really cool. And I'll get into it more in a minute, but yeah. So our story begins again in the past. Volume 1 opened in the past with the founding of Amazonia, and Volume 2 opens with Amazonia under attack by the Nazis. Baroness Paula von Gunther, I believe is how you say her name. She leads a Nazi invasion on the grounds of Amazonia, and I mean it's not much of a fight. They are pretty much immediately smashed. She, as a superhuman, is about the only one who's able to really withstand the Amazons' strength and superior technology. And so she kind of goes head-to-head with the queen for a brief moment, stealing Hippolyta's girl, making her, or rendering her simply mortal, and plans to kill the queen in the name of the Reich. But Hippolyta, using her superior knowledge of martial arts, which is cool, Greco-Roman wrestling, subdues Paula to the ground, saying, as Paul says, how I'm stronger than you, much stronger. It's not about strength. It's about authority. I don't understand. You turned every muscle against me. You're just a child, barely born. It's time you grew up. Your Majesty. Let me go. What is this? What are you doing? The Venus Girdle. It changes every body cell with... It charges every body cell with vitalizing currents and harmonizes the brain, encouraging obedience. A dainty thing it is not. I won't. You can't control me. You can't make me. Oh, make me. What's happening? My Nazi ideals slipping away. They don't make any sense now. I thought I was strong. What's wrong with me? I'm so weak. I must be weak to wish to serve weak, cruel men like Herr Hitler. If you truly long to be a slave to the ideas of others, well, we can find a loving mistress to help you explore your desires in a healthier context. Yes, my queen. How can you ever forgive me? How wise of you to know this is all I ever wanted. Devote yourself to me by following the Amazon code. Go with our sweet Mala to Improvement Island. There you'll come to know yourself until the Venus girdle is no longer required. So again, I think that scene just in and of itself is kind of touching on a lot of the things that Morrison was trying to get at in the first volume. Like the idea of the loving mistress, like that was like, oh, whoa, this is getting all the bondage stuff back. But it's kind of the idea is like some people naturally have submissive tendencies, and those can be exploited in really self-destructive ways. And so what the bondage imagery is supposed to inhibit in the Amazonian ideal is the idea of submitting yourself in loving bondage, submitting yourself to another who truly does have your best interests at heart and will do what's right by you for your own good, even if you're not able to fully understand that. And so I think using Paula von Gunther here as an example of like someone who's submitted themselves to the Nazi ideal and has, let that kind of destroy their humanity, is really interesting to take that and play it against the ideals of the Amazons, where it's like, truly all you want is someone to tell you what to do, someone to put your faith into, then we'll find you someone to do that. That's fine. But we're going to do it, and it's going to be a person who's going to put you on the right path. And I thought that was a really, really good scene. Skipping ahead a bit, we get to a room of seedy government men who are reviewing what was known about Paula von Gunther's mission to Themyscira in the wake of Wonder Woman's existence in the world. And so they fear what Wonder Woman has talked about and what kind of changes she might make onto the world. And so have hired, or have now brought in someone. They have flight and communications technology surpassing anything we have in development. The island is concealed using methods we do not understand. People who search for it have never heard from again. We need a way in. There's only one way we know of. We need to get through Wonder Woman's defenses, and that requires an expert in female psychology. Gentlemen, she may be strong and tough and smart and beautiful, but she's just a woman. I never met one I couldn't break. And we just get like this ominous, lion-headed cane and pinstripe suit look to this guy. And we don't really know anything about him, but, there's a female secretary outside of this meeting with the powerful men, and she's trembling in front of this mysterious stranger. She says, "Look, this isn't something I do, but if you're serious about that date, my boyfriend's away this weekend. My number, my card, she gives him her number. And I'm like, oh, I know who this is. I knew who it was immediately. And again, it's like, it's a little more predictable. It's a little more safe, I guess I'd call it. But it's still really well done, and I really like that. So Wonder Woman's kind of, made a splash onto the world. All the magazines are about her. She's leading parades and doing big, sporting event showings and stuff. And she's really, she's teaching at a college and talking about women's liberation. Some nice rapid-fire politics in here that I like quite a bit, where she's doing a Q&A with her class. What about trans women? Is there room for people like me in your utopia? There's room for everyone. The Amazon Code was evolved by women over thousands of years and outlines a progressive, pacifist way of living and thinking that anyone can follow. There's a lot of stuff on social media about how you dress provocatively and promote an unrealistic body type, which is basically setting a bad example for women. I mean, the stuff you do is amazing and all. It's just, does any of the criticism bother you? I don't think there's any such thing as an unrealistic body shape. My own body is the result of diet, exercise, and sophisticated genetic engineering. Otherwise, I dress as I please. Bitch! Damn! The salt. I love that. That's so good. And then, but like, it's got this great moment that that kind of like confronts Wonder Woman with something that is like a legit question for every superhero, but probably for Wonder Woman more than anyone else. I just want to say that women are being trafficked and abused right now. They don't have the luxury of time. You're offering us philosophy when what we need are weapons. And if half of what you're saying is for real, if you're not just some media fake, the Amazons could bring the patriarchy to its knees overnight, right? The Amazons have rejected violence and war. Ours is the way of love and wisdom, the path of Aphrodite and Athena. I chose to come among you, to learn and to teach, to bring our worlds closer together. My mother, my sisters, chose to isolate themselves in peace. It's not my place to compel the Amazons to action. You're fine with coercion, though, right? You can control people's minds with that lasso of yours, like you did with that dude on TV. There's Wonder Woman tying Sean Spicer up with the lasso of truth. Woo! So why can't you put a lasso around the whole world? And I love that that's where the scene cuts. Like, during Wonder Woman's speech, there's all these, big superheroic things she's doing, wearing different outfits along the way. That's nice. But it's left with that question. So why can't you put a lasso around the whole world? And that's kind of the question of the book. The book opens really strongly with the idea of, like, we can make others submit for their own good. It is something the Amazons have the capability to do. The rest of the book kind of revolves around the question of if they should. And that's where things start to get really interesting. Because we cut to Wonder Woman in her apartment talking. Beth, I had no real answer for that young woman. Don't get disheartened, honey. It's not that. We Amazons are proof that peace and submission to a loving authority works. Should we put a golden chain around the world and compel men to change? If you can, let me get back to you on that. We could end war. End the rape of Mother Gaia, the earth, end strife among nations and nations themselves. Oh, Beth, man's world would fall to its knees before the glory of Amazonia. People on their knees bowing to their conquerors. Not a good look. You'll be all right on your own till I get back, right? I will, of course. And so, like, that's really the question of the book that Wonder Woman begins to deal with is she's in this new world and she's trying to, show a better way, but she has at least the potential to force a better way because she begins a conversation with her mother about how she could maybe show another way, but it like the patriarchy, the strife and divisions in man's world is so severe that it would take at least 100 years to get there. And now that she's off Amazonia and doesn't have connection to the Fountain of Youth, it's questionable whether she could live long enough to do it. And just, I don't know. It's a really, really strong premise for a series. Skip ahead in the story a little bit to the mission, as it were. In the Middle East, there's some terrorists about to kill this guy who came to be a negotiator when Wonder Woman breaks in to save the day, because she's Wonder Woman. And she saves him, and they're kind of hanging out afterward. It's a really good action scene. I should really just show some of the pages, because Paquette does some really awesome work. I love the flowing fabric. showing Wonder Woman just doing some cool action stuff. It's fun. Definitely not the focus of the series, but fun, cool stuff nonetheless. So then she begins to hang out with the guy she saved, and he's talking to her, and he kind of starts to question her a lot on what she's been saying, what she's been doing. It's a really long scene where it's just two characters in a comic book talking, and he's kind of coming off as like maybe a little too curious, but he's trying to be really friendly with her. And then when she leaves and they've agreed to maybe hang out again when they're both back stateside, he's like, oh yeah, I asked for my cane back. And we get, oh no. And then this is where we really get the reveal of who it is, if you hadn't already guessed. Dr. Psycho. If I had just one piece of advice for one precious axiom to impart on you losers, cucks, and gamma dudes, it would be that singular nugget. Beautiful, smart, wise, powerful, principled. They're all just the same. Dr. Psycho calling a bunch of dudes cucks and losers and gammas. Oh, it's the best thing you could ever hope for. That is so that dude. That is 100% Dr. Psycho. Oh, that is such a good premise for that character. I love it. I legit love that Dr. Psycho's one of those fuckers. And it's like, he's posting on a fucking internet chat room as Dr. Psycho. And his name's Zyko, Zeiko, or some shit like that. It's great. We're getting a lot of Wonder Woman villains introduced in this. So we got Paula von Gunther, we got Dr. Psycho, we also get Maxwell Lord, who shows a military official who's Steve Trevor's superior all the weaponry that they're developing. They call it Project Ares, in order to deal with the Amazon threat. And that really freaks out the military guy, so he goes to Steve to talk to him about him. I'm talking about the boy most likely to start World War III, Maxwell Lord, and what he just showed me. Like, that's a whoa moment right there, and it's really cool. So yeah. We come back to Amazonia, and this is really where the plot starts to take up. Paula von Gunther is brought before the Queen because she was spotted making swastikas, defacing Amazon art and public faces. And Hippolyta wonders what this can mean, so she goes to consult the fates and just takes such a turn, starts talking to people in just such a weird way. And Mala, sisters both, and lovers, and my friends, above all, I'll miss you all so much. Hippolyta, my queen, what's wrong? A chill, I feel. Hush. What is must be. Then we get like kind of so it's like, well, what's going on there? And we get kind of this interesting scenario that's going on where Steve tries to warn Wonder Woman about what's happening and says that she can't really trust this Dr. Psycho guy. What is it that they say? Zeiko. Zeiko. Think about how you've changed since you started to hang around with this Zeiko dude. Leon? What's this about? Are you serious? One-time avant-garde theater director, he plans and executes real-life large-scale simulations for military psyops actions. NLP, persuasion, mind control, Diana. You are serious, I get it. You don't like him. But you're wrong. Both of you. So, like, Psycho has manipulated Wonder Woman to think that, like, oh yeah, people are gonna be jealous of me. He's playing like the this very manipulative game, and I think it's really kind of a cool premise to use for him as a villain. And so we get this scene where, like, Wonder Woman volunteers to let him shoot at her. And she's like, I'll be able to block it, it's fine. And he's, like, freaked out by it. Or so he acts. And I love the height difference, that's beautiful. And it's kind of like, okay, what's going on here? And then he just can't help himself and is tempted in kissing her. And he's like, what was that? And she's like, that was a kiss? Man's world's so unsubtle and everything. And she kisses him back. And it's like, whoa. Things have gotten, like, really intense, really developed between these two. And it leaves things in a very odd place. And he starts to, like, question, what are you getting me with, like, super pheromones? What are you doing to me? He's like, can you deny she's using you to undermine man's world, as you call it? My mother? I came here of my own accord. And he's like, all right, you know what? Fine. Here. You need to trust me, and I need to know that I can trust you. So, use the lasso. Ask me any question as a demonstration. And so she binds him with the lasso and asks, very importantly, what do you want to tell me? They believe you're an advanced scout for a technologically advanced invasion force. They brought me in to find ways to compromise you. I'm so sorry. They engaged me to get through your defenses and identify your weaknesses. I've tried to tell them there has to be a better way. Diana, I'm sorry, but they're all part of it. Diana, Trevor, that's all this was? A trick? And then it cuts to Psycho's internal stuff is posting. Target achieved. Wonder Woman, emotional meltdown. Beat that, boys. God, I love my job. She'll take off in her magical jet. No one treats a princess this way, but she'll blame herself. Superior types always think it must be their fault things went wrong. It has to be her fault for misunderstanding the rules of man's world. What she will have to do to be treated with the respect she deserves. This princess, this Super 10, this prey of the day, what will she give up? How can she prove to me she is for real? At her speed, I give her 20 minutes. She gives me 19. Pushover. Next Ches, Psycho for the kill. And yeah, Wonder Woman is very emotionally manipulated because she's not used to dealing with someone like this. Someone who treats people like objects. She goes back to his house to try to talk to him some more. And he's like, alright, I need you to know that I can trust you and you can trust me. So I need to ask you some questions to make sure that they're not right. So let me ask you a question when you're bound by the lasso. And ultimately she agrees to it, because she sees him as a friend at this point. And she's bound with the lasso. And he says, well, the second he gets her, he says, how easy was that? I don't know, that's it, exactly. You don't. Shh, you don't move a muscle until I tell you it's okay. Shut up. Shut up and listen for once in your smug, privileged life. So, Wonder Woman, while we're on the subject of truth, the terrorists were actors. The girls, too. Even the bug was a fake, a drone recording your body language, analyzing every gesture for me to study. These bracelets of submission? Amazing. It's that cultural willingness to give in to loving authority that makes you and your sisters so vulnerable. When I take the lasso off, you won't even remember the post-hypnotic suggestion. Here's what you're going to do, Diana. So he hypnotized Wonder Woman while she was bound by the lasso of truth. I really like that that Morrison kept the really old school weakness that if she's bound by a man, she loses all her powers. I think that's, again, it's one of those things that didn't stick around. It's probably for good reason that it didn't, but it's still an ultimately really cool idea that works really well with the premise of the character. So I thought that was, again, that's probably my favorite scene in the whole book. Playing Psycho like that as just this really malicious, really hateful villain. Again, I love the way he talks. No, that's it exactly. You don't move a muscle until I tell you it's okay. Shut up. Shut up and listen for once in your smug, privileged life. You just really get the sense, like, and I can see guys like this talk online all the time. So taking that and turning it into a comic book villain is just such a good premise, and especially a Wonder Woman villain. That is so exactly what this character is meant for. And it's just smug. Like, you know, you get the idea with the misogynist that hates women, and it's always so silly. Where, like, this is where it's at. This is where it's like he thinks he's better than them, and it's like he's so into, like, mind games and playing with people that he's become such just a slimy little worm, and you kind of cringe when you hear him talk. It's a really, really strong premise for a character. God damn, I love that. So yeah, Wonder Woman doesn't really have control of herself and kind of bulldozes Steve Trevor over, which is intense ass scene. Cut to a little bit later, and there's been this women's march that Wonder Woman was supposed to lead the whole time. And upon the march, she comes and gives a very angry speech about how the Amazons are going to come and wrest control of man's world. And that was the hypnotic suggestion. Dr. Psycho did not turn her into a zombie soldier or something. He emotionally compromised her, morally manipulated her, and makes her give a speech that serves as a premise for a counterattack. Backtrack a little bit to see what's going on in Amazonia. Wonder Woman has one last conversation with her mother, where she says, "All that must pass was wrought at my will, my promise to the fates. I dreamed a weapon born to bring about the end of men. I changed my mind. The fates changed not. And now the time has come. All things must pass. Mother, wait." And then Paulita is alone in her room with Paula von Gunther. And she says to Paula, "You're young, Paula, less than 100 years. In speech and gestures, you can hide nothing from me. You activated the magic mirror." Help me, I struggled against my brainwashing. I fought I did, but the doctors of the Reich were too clever. After all these years, the signal came. I was reactivated by radio. Forgive me. The Creed is stronger than I am. I knew this day would come. And you, its minister, sweet Paula. One last war. Then, Father, to end war. Paula steals Paulita's girdle, rendering her mortal. And then my hand faster than your eye. Remember, I will finish what we began that day. Of course, my dear, as is your function. I'll kill you. Your daughter will kneel for me. My will be done in loving submission to the spinners of fate. Your will, this decided long before you. Longer than you know. Athena, Aphrodite, be with me. That is a tragic fucking death scene. So Paul von Gunther kills Hippolyta of the Amazons and escapes. Goes to DC, where Wonder Woman has just given her speech that will be used as premise for invasion, and attacks Wonder Woman as she is programmed to do. Meanwhile, Maxwell Lord is outed as Dr. Psycho to Diana by Etta Candy. Shows that he's a member of the pickup artist community. And so she realizes it was, of course, Dr. Psycho that manipulated her into saying what she did in front of the world. And yeah, I really like this. Etta Candy fucking smashes the shit out of Dr. Psycho with his cane. That's gorgeous. So yeah, we get again, this is more typical kind of the stuff Morrison was saying he was trying to avoid in the first volume, but I think it works. It's more typical, but again, I feel there's enough inversion going on here that it works. Wonder Woman versus Paul von Gunther on the lawn of the White House. Wonder Woman wraps her in the lasso and says, "Why are you here? What are you doing?" And Paula admits that she killed the Queen because she was programmed to. And she only wants help because my mind is on fire. They made me, don't hurt me. It's alright, Paula. It's alright. We will make you better. And that is such the Wonder Woman move. Talk about Wonder Woman a lot in tonight's episode of Comic Reviews too. But yeah, the idea that Paula is responsible for the death of Hippolyta. But Wonder Woman, as much as that might break her heart that her own mother died, she's not going to hold it against Paula if she's not truly responsible for her actions. So the next bits happen pretty fast. The invisible planes and other Amazon technology show up to pick up Wonder Woman because things with the United States are going to go wrong fast. Etta Candy puts a fucking gag on Dr. Psycho, and he gets thrown on the ship as well. He's going to be taken care of on Paradise Island. You have to get out of here. It's going to turn ugly, honey, but this asshole belongs to you. And so they return to Amazonia. You played your part in a greater design, Paula, struggling in the web of the fates, forever in chains, as are we all, subject to the consequences of our actions. Don't be afraid. I only want you to answer one question truthfully, says to Psycho. Puts the lasso on him. What makes you so afraid of us? I can't. It's all right. You don't have to answer just yet. You can't do this to me. We have laws. I have rights. No, what are you? You can't move. And he's kind of just consumed by butterflies, ? And he's sent to deal with Aphrodite's justice, as the German soldiers were in the beginning. So that's really fucking interesting. I don't know what that's going to turn into. I know that that used to be an old thing in Wonder Woman comics. I should probably do some reading up on what exactly happened, because they used to bring men to Amazon Island to train them in submission to female loving authority. So that should be interesting. And then the book ends on a pretty big cliffhanger, with Wonder Woman, kind of reluctantly but necessarily taking the role as Queen of the Amazons as Maxwell Lord's Project Ares begins to gear up to attack them. Man's world is ablaze with conflict. We must prepare. The war god returns. Who will lead us in these times of turmoil? Who always leads? She whom the fates desire. Daughter of Hippolyta, the eternal queen. And so we end with Wonder Woman, Queen of the Amazons, dealing with the fact that man's world's about to invade. Obviously manipulated by Ares, with Maxwell Lord at the helm. That's all really strong stuff. Not gonna lie, that shit is all just really, really strong writing. I really like it. I know Morrison's kind of saying he's done with like mainstream comics. I really hope he comes back to finish Volume 3. You can't just leave it on such a cliffhanger like that. Like I'm a whole year late on reading this, and I'm actually kind of glad I waited a year now because maybe I'm 1 year closer to it, to the final conclusion of the story. But I thought it was a great story. I love the idea that Hippolyta created a weapon to end man's world, and she changed her mind. She didn't want Diana to be a weapon anymore at the end of the first volume. And this idea of like, no, that's her destiny, is to be the weapon to end man's world. And so we've kind of set up a war that has to come. And I'm actually really curious to see what Morrison would do with it, because I've got an idea. I've got an idea of how you can make it work. You can make it like, yeah, she is a weapon to end man's world because she bridges it and puts an end to the kind of stuff that people like Maxwell Lord get up to. Yeah. I was very, very impressed with this. It's a great Wonder Woman story. Probably in my top 10 Wonder Woman stuff, to be honest with you. It's just really also good. The way Dr. Psycho's written, it's a really, really strong take and voice for Dr. Psycho that I think should be continued from here on. Really, really happy with this book. Yanick Paquette's art's absolutely amazing. There's so much like political and social context. Like I wanted to talk more about the Wonder Burqa, but I'm just kind of done for the night. But I thought that was all just really fascinating stuff going on in this book, and I thought it was a really, really solid volume. I think I'm going to end it there. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you enjoyed the show. Have a great night. I'll catch you next time.